actually, when you are creating a journey, it's always good to have the goal in mind or the end point in mind. So my first presentation will be actually linked with what we want to see by the successful players at the age of 12, and in the second part of the presentation under 14, actually how do they play? So to have in mind our objective, I would like them to play, and which are actually the standards of successful players. When I talk about successful players, because we are talking about tennis, I will always refer to international standards. Yes, they are higher, but we will also discuss about it, how to use these standards also at your club level a bit later. So let's start. Successful 12 and under players, how they play. So when I talk and think about 10, 11, 12-year-old players, actually I define this period with a question: are you ready to check your dreams? Of course, the young players are dreaming, but are they really ready to check their dreams and what it means to be a performance player? So in this presentation, I would like to go through different points, starting and actually to give it just a little bit idea, I'd say understanding about what means starting to play international tennis at the age of 11, 12. Today's international tennis starts pretty early. To describe general levels of players under 12 and under 14, describe the key playing competencies of successful players, and actually I will mention some key drivers of game development. So let's start. What means starting to play international tennis? Actually, it's a period between the kids' game under 10 and actually junior tennis, when they are starting to really travel around and focusing on, let's say, the performance for even preparing for professional career during the junior tennis, what for me started from the age 15, something like that. This period actually for the kids is very turbulent. We call it pre-puberty period, and actually there are a lot of changes that they are experiencing. I'll start from the mental side. Of course, the kids now start to be much more mature. They're able to think more in more abstract way. They are able to start to plan and follow their plans in different ways. Of course, apart from mental, there are also the things that you all know, that there's actually the period of very intensive growth. They're actually able now to develop almost all motor abilities except anaerobic power and anaerobic endurance that they will have to add a bit later when the actually hormonal system will be maturing also. But I would like to also emphasize this emotional and social development. Actually, at the beginning, by the age of 12, typically the boys, perhaps 1 year younger, the girls, starting to show some rebellious streaks. They start to actually develop their personal values. They try to actually get away from their parents' environment, and peers becomes much more important for them. Emotionally, they start to learn how to handle their emotions. They are not perfect yet, not at all, but that's a very important step toward. They can understand other people's points of view, and they can set their own goals and participate in lengthy projects that has visible outcomes. And this is an important thing, because before that, the kids have been in a different stage of their development. And now they can really add some more, I would say, focus, personal responsibility for their own development. So, okay, I didn't say one thing. If there is something you would like to step in my presentation or ask the question, please feel free to just do it and start talking, because I don't see in my screen, actually, if you raise the hand. I don't see it at the moment here on my screen, but if there is anything you would like to add or to have a question, please feel free to anytime start talking and jump into my presentation. So, 12 and under game of successful players. So I will just take one video. I don't know if you now hear my sound or not. Michaela was not able to see this, to hear the sound when I was testing, but I hope it works. Not yet.
No sound.
Okay.
No.
Video is important, yeah. So this is just an example what we can see by the players that are playing at the international level by the age of 12. Yes, this is two very good guys, and now just an example of the point between two excellent girls at the international stage at the age of 12. On a point. It already looks like a very good game. Nice shot. Finish. Good. So if you would be together, I would ask you to talk to each other. But now I would like that each of you, for yourself, write down 3 key elements of the successful 12 and under game for the performance players. Just write down for yourself 3 key elements for you of the successful 12 and under game. Which are the 3 key playing competencies? I'll give you 1 minute. Make just what comes first to your mind. I will not ask you now to share with me. It's not about this. It's not about comparing. Just put down for yourself 3 key playing competencies. Another 15 seconds. Okay, and also one more thing, one more task for you, because the boys and girls starting to differ at that age. I would like that you write down for yourself first now 2, perhaps maximum 3 key differences between the boys and girls, how they play the game at that age. Okay. We'll see. I will come at the end of my presentation, and then we'll discuss what you put down, what I will present. It will be interesting to compare, I hope. So, when I'm defining the general level of their game, I like to use this definition that you can see on your screen. So, for this age group, or this 12 and under players, I would like them to be able to dominate the opponent with using space and taking a time away with offensive technique. Offensive technique, I will just give an example, and you will immediately understand what I mean. It's like taking the ball early at the top of the bounce and so on. So to take time away. Now, let's take a look at playing competencies of the boys 12 and under. We'll then compare it a little bit with the girls, and by the 14 and under, we'll start with the girls and then compare the boys with the girls. So, of course, the players have to be able to start the rally. Now, here's an example of starting the rally with a second serve, and obviously the main focus or main objective by serving, actually serve and the next 1 or 2 shots for the players to stay actually in the balanced rally. Typically, the players will try to go through the middle first in order to go deep and in a big target around the center of the court. Points. Another example. You will see another point. So actually, typically the players with the second serve will go also for the middle of the service box. That's like a standard. So all of them under pressure, they're able to go deep to the big target around the middle of the service box. The depth is important characteristics. And then to stay in the point and actually create a balanced rally after the second serve and follow up. It doesn't mean that they always win the points, of course. So another element is also to be able to start the rally after opponent's first serve. And again, like also the pro players, we will see that the players, when they return the first serve at that younger age, already understand this concept of the big target around the center of the court. We all know that actually the center of the court is good target to neutralize attacks with the depth because we are giving less angles. And it seems simple, but we know when we are looking at our regular players at the club that very often these are exactly the things that they don't do the same way. Very often they are going for too much, or they're going for the angles, attacking instead of actually creating the balanced rally with the 2-3 first shots. So that means starting the rally typically when you're under pressure. Second serve is usually an advantage for the opponent, or when opponent has the first serve with the return of first serve to stay in the point is also very, very important to actually start the rallies. It's not enough. Already at this young age, we will see that also the good players are able to create advantage with their first serve and the following shot. The standard that we can see by the successful players that all of them are able to create this pressure with first serve wide and actually then going with a very simple basic pattern with the second shot to the other side. So wide serve and going for the other side doesn't always make a winner, but actually it's very important that they are also aware about this, I would call it first option to really create pressure after the serve. The second option that they can use are also these like a T serves. T serves for them are more difficult to control, and then to combine it with a second shot that typically is cross court. So if you bring the player with a serve to the middle, then you have a plan that with the second shot you would like to make him run to the corner, so to make him move. Of course, returning the second serve is an opportunity for the returner, and the main pattern that they will use are two of them. The first one, especially by younger age groups, when they are offensive, they will try to use so-called X pattern, yeah, to play cross court, and then the next shot to the other side. And they're pretty aware about it. So what you will see that they will use mainly this like X patterns, and the second one is actually to be offensive toward the middle. So to be offensive in the big target with a return. It's now the break point, yeah. No, sorry, it's a game point. Game point 40-15. And the guy decided to go offensive with offensive shot toward the middle of the court in order to start the rally and then play the point. One more example. Second serve. Oh, it's a break point, yeah. Now the guy is taking the ball with forehand, so he was expecting now the second serve to the middle of the service box, and actually was taking it with his forehand. So this is an additional thing that you will see by good players at that age, that they're already aware about their better shot, and they will also try to take a chance to actually attack these second serves, you see, with forehand and to be offensive. The thing that I would like to actually emphasize here by returning is you didn't see any down the line return in these video clips. And mainly when you look at the matches when the players are playing the players of the same level, they will very, very seldom use the down the line returns. They will mainly use cross courts, forehand inside out, again, a cross court direction, or actually pressuring the opponent by being very consistent with offensive shots in a big target around the center of the court. We are coming to the baseline game. These players are already able to use the full court. That means they are able to use the width, but also the depth of the court. Using different trajectories, directions. And moving each other around. He said that using space is their main actually weapon. But they can also create pressure. And you will see now when the guy gets the ball around the middle, he is able to create the pressure from the center to the corners, moving the opponent left, right. So the one that gets the opportunity around the middle, he'll try to go away from the opponent. And then, okay, here's a good example of finishing the point at the net. Cross court, one more cross court, 3-1, and to the other side. So actually, I would say that we can already see here this development of the typical patterns, like 2 or 3 times to one target and then changing the sides. So intuitively, I would say that they're discovering some of the also main playing patterns that they will use later. So at a young age, actually, from our side, as a coach, is fostering and supporting the right patterns of play actually is very important already. As you can see, they are using mainly cross-court shots also. There are not many down-the-line shots, mainly cross-court, and they are very good. These are very good players to use angle cross-court to really open the court. Drop shots as variety, defense. Not easy to finish the point at the net for them. They are still pretty small. And of course, when they are using the full court, what differ these successful players from the average players is actually their decision making. They are able to apply appropriate shots in the rallies, and that actually enables them to decrease amount of unforced errors. The main source of winning for these young age groups are opponents' errors. And here you can recognize that they're using different but also appropriate trajectories when they're attacking or defending, like this one. So actually quite a wide range of shots that they are already showing to us. Long point. They're showing the resilience here. Yes, not easy to finish. But one more thing at the baseline that we can already recognize by these young successful players is that they're aware also about their more effective shots, and they are starting to use more forehand shots around the middle. You can see the guy on the other side running around and taking the balls with the forehand and create some additional pressure. Also, positioning is an important thing. The successful players will take the opportunity to be closer or even inside the baseline in order to take the time away from the opponent. So we said one element of the game of successful players at that age is actually to use space, and another one to start to steal the time from the opponent. Like here, you see a good example coming in close, the other guy is defending, and now high percentage angle shot with the control, not with full power, like many of the young kids are doing, are finishing the point. So, yes, attack is always like a fancy part of the game, but many points are won by defensive skills. You can see here when the players are defending, they're very good movers, but also smart defenders in terms of the targets that they are actually picking up for defending. Again, center, cross courts are the main direction, height. And what we can, of course, connect is that this physical resilience for defense is also related to the mental resilience that we all know is even more important for their further development. Net game, yeah, they're not coming so often to the net. But one thing that we can recognize by a successful player is that when they come to the net, they're aware about the free space, and they will mainly place the ball to the free space, to the other side where the opponent is not. One guy is coming, another one. Like you see, they're aware about the free space and direct the ball is into the free space. One more time, we have another example. The guy will come to the net, go down the line, and now, one more thing. What I believe is very important that these young players understand at early age is also this, I would call it short block cross-court volley. I think also at the pro level, this is the easiest way to win the point at the net. Very often the young players that are not successful will play the volleys deep or to the middle and don't have this, actually the pattern or understanding that actually after down the line shot as a typical approach shot, a direction. Actually, if the ball comes to me, I don't think where I'm playing. It's the angle cross-court short that actually I can use, and it's the most safe for me and so difficult for the opponent because it's so far away from him. Such a long running ways for reaching the ball. And the last one, the last game situation is actually to play against the net player. These players are very simple in a way, but what is important is by their decision making what to do, they're aware about the opponent's position and then use appropriately the actually passing shot and the lob. So they're aware about the opponent's position and they will use the appropriate shot, either passing shot or lob, in order to win the point or create a difficult situation for the opponent. So just a quick summary of what I was actually presenting. When we talk about the boys and their game, actually the consistency and safety in the point construction is very important, to minimize unforced errors. Using cross-court and the center of the court and being offensive and in good position at the baseline in the center of the court to move the opponent. Of course, before winning the point, don't lose it. So the key things that you can see here, some of them are also related to some technical skills. And this one is important for me. When we are looking at the young players, it's a combination of patience and risk-taking, because we want them to start to develop their active game, not just to bring the balls back for the future development and the possibility to be also successful in the older age categories. Audacity means like a bravery. So actually, we want actually to connect the bravery, that they dare to actually go for some let's say, building the point, that they have the idea how to force the opponent's mistakes and not just wait for the opponent's mistakes. That can be a very, very efficient tactics at a young age, but not really something what will be promising for the future. And to add, of course, creativity. Now, I will move to the girls, and there will be just a few slides in which I will compare the boys and girls, emphasizing some differences and many commonalities, actually. And after that, I will open the question time for the questions for you, and that we actually discuss what I was presenting. So, playing competencies for successful girls, 12 and under. Now, the first thing actually that I would like to mention is that already we can see also by the good girls that they are able to create advantage with the wide serves. Typically, the main serve will be like a slice or more slicing serve to wide on the forehand juice side, and then to go for the other side. That one. Simple, but for me, very, very important element in developing the player's game at that age for the girls, that they are not passive. Because very often the average girls, that could also be successful still at that age, are just starting the point with the serve that is bringing in the middle of the service box and then start running and playing. So the successful ones here that have a much better chance in the future, that has already this, I would call it, active attitude or offensive attitude, and know that the first serve actually is the advantage that should be used in order to be a good player. So one thing that I would like to emphasize that we need to really focus on also when we're developing boys and girls of the young age. Using full court. Here we will see another thing that actually is very similar at that age between boys and girls. Both of them are able to use the full court to move the opponent. To be active. That's what we said for the boys, that it's difficult also to win the point at the net, even more difficult for the young girls. They don't have the body, they don't have a power, the reach to be able to easily use it for finishing the point at the net. But what you can see is what is called also, like very often, dogfight. And this is very important for the girls to show it, because very often we can see the girls in the clubs that don't like this dogfight. It's really like a wrestling for the point. And this would be the one very important element I would look at the young players and young girls that are looking forward to be performance players, if they are ready for the dogfight, to really try to take the point and actually fight for every point. Same like the boys, they will also be able to pressure the opponents from left, right, from the middle. They are active and actually use their different opportunities to be pressuring the opponent and taking the time and using space. Good. Nice shot, yeah? One thing that actually I would like you to be aware about when we talk about the successful players nowadays at a young age, when we talk about the girls, is also we can see now that now the younger girls are also using much more often the forehand, like this one now he's showing here, also around the center of the court on the backhand side. Some 20 years ago, when I was traveling on the 14 under tour, there was many girls that have never tried to actually run around the backhand and use the forehand. Nowadays, and in several schools, like I know in France or in the Czech Republic, it's a part of also girls' education at the young age. You see the other one also. And they are all aware about this, I would call it tactical variation, to use also forehand for all the reasons that you all know, why the forehand can be more effective shot. not very easy to finish. And what I would like to also emphasize by the girls, that I would say it's even more important by the boys to start to be aware about their positioning, because we all know that by the female game, actually being closer to the baseline is a big advantage. And we can see that by successful players of the young age, at the age of 12, they're already aware and they will try to get closer inside the baseline and use the angles and pressure the opponent. Staying close, coming in. Hitting on the rise, yeah. Coming to the net, and nice point. Same like by the boys, it's so important that apart from attacking skills, the players are also developing their defensive skills. Being resilient, bringing one more ball back, I would say that's something what every of these successful players will be able to do, especially when important points like this one, 4-3, third set, 30-30, and then to start to be very reliable on your defense is important, because you cannot always hit the winners. Point. It was one example of the, I would call it also rare down the line shot. And you could see that even by this very aggressive and successful deep down the line shot that the player closer to our side was using, the other one was still having a chance to counter with a cross-court shot. That's one thing that you will also not see very often in a baseline game, that will use a lot of down the line shots. Same as the boys, they will be much more using the cross-court, making opponent run, and less down the line shots. But it will become one of the most important shots in a few years' time, and we will talk about it. So just a quick summary about the girls. The number one thing that I would like to say here when I'm making this wrap-up of the girls' game is that we have to be sure that the safety by the girls doesn't become passivity. What very often we see at a club level, high balls, moon balls, and so on, just playing safe into the court. Using cross-court center of the court and being offensive in a good position, especially using it from the center to the corners, actually is very important. Yes, back and slide, but the girls typically is not efficient yet because of the strengths that they have a bit less than the boys in the shoulder area. And that's very important for stability and being able to develop effective slice technique. Same like by the boys, audacity in bravery and creativity are important. And yes, net approaches are important to be developed, even though, or supported, fostered, what you would like to use as a phrase, but very often they are not rewarded with the winning points. Actually, is bravery and being able to win the points at the match, at the net, requires maturity and actually more strengths and being able to close the net physically. So this is my first part. In this presentation will be presented the challenges and the level of the game needed to be successful at the top Tennis Europe Category 1 or Super Category competitions. And it's important for every coach who would like to enable his player to fulfill their potentials to be aware about the challenges on the tour. Because if you know where you are going, actually it's easier to prepare the player for the challenges. In terms of the player's profile, TE is Tennis Europe. So here we have a ranking. So I would say that for me, successful players, under 14 internationally successful players, are actually having the ranking that is around top 30. Typically, they are reaching the last 16 it's 14 and 48 or 64 draws. So mainly they're having minimum 2-to-1 win-loss ratio. And if they reach that level at the age of 13, I would call them already like evident talents. Of course, we have 14 years old talented players, but also the ones that typically are biologically late developers. So they don't have these physical advantages, are not strong enough. But also we have top 30 players that are 14 years old, but they're average in terms of the, I would call skills, but actually what they have is a biological advantage because they are biologically very advanced players. In this group of top 30 players in the Tennis Europe rankings, they never made it later on. This is one of the, I would say, most common reason because they had the advantage by biological maturity. It's not a problem if the player is biologically more mature, but then actually, if he looks like 16, he should already be also successful under 16 and not only by under 14. In terms of their game, in general, when you look at the game, you can see that they're able to create and continue pressure when serving, returning, and at the baseline game. The key thing is the shot quality. Consistent depth with a spin, for example, for the boys is one example. And we'll go more in details when I will show you the playing competencies. They're able to resist the pressure with quality. Again, the depth is very important, but they have also good understanding of the court coverage and actually playing the right shot. Applying very often high percentage shots, what actually decrease the amount of unforced or stupid mistakes. When we talk about these evident talents, Gasquet at the age of 13, Nadal, Djokovic, when they were 13 years old, they were already top 10 players. They're usually mentally very resilient. They have very good technique. But I would like to emphasize also from my coaching experience, I cannot confirm you with some scientific research, but one of the things that you all see, that you see by all these players, that they have high quality contact. The players are reaching the balls, and even difficult balls, they will hit back with a sweet spot, with the center of the racket, and that allowed them actually to have an excellent depth control. And they need it because they are very often under attack, under pressure from physically stronger guys. So in order to keep the ball, not just in play, but to be able to neutralize the next attack, they have to have a very good quality of, control of the depth when they are under pressure. 14 years old biological advanced players typically are overpowering the opponents by physical dominance, height, weight, but also with mental and emotional maturation. They are more mature. That's very important also. So let's take a look at the playing standards, the standards of playing competencies. And as I said, we will start with the girls when we talk about 14 and under. The videos I have grouped in the 4 parts. The first one, we will talk now about the performer mindset. Then we'll talk about serving and returning, baseline game, and the net game. So let's start with the performer mindset. Look at the score. It's a third set, 3-2, 30-all. And what we need at this time, that the players are able to take the responsibility, to show autonomy in actually taking over the decisions, what they do and how they play. Look at the point. And now look at the reaction. She's showing with the finger and pointing to herself. It's about me. One more time. It's a good visual example of what I'm meaning by autonomy and taking responsibility. Look at her finger. It's about me. Yeah. Another very important element in terms of looking at the competencies of these 14 other successful players, a part of autonomy is also being able to start to manage the emotions when actually there is a pressure. Look at the result. 5-3, 30-15, serving for the match. Actually, it's the final of the TAR tournament. Wow. Look at these drop shots. Obviously, the arm was pretty tense, yeah? But now look at her, what she's doing now between the points. She's sticking to her routine in tough situation. Second serve, 40-30. Another one. But actually, again, she will be able to stick to her routine after showing a little bit of disappointment and able to recompose herself for the next point. Two double faults. Tough. But still, she's not panicking. You see that she's going now for the towel. She's actually aware about needs to take the time. So she's aware about this routine that can help her to get ready. You see now the pretty intensive walk back and get ready to play the next point. Safe serve to the big target, playing the point. And got it. She won that match at the end. Doesn't matter. But here, actually, I use it as an example of for the successful players and their ability to start to manage their emotions. They're aware about the routines, and actually they're able to recompose even after losing some points, actually, in the tough moments of the match. It's a start. It's not the end of this development. Moving to serving and returning. Sorry. So let's start with serving and starting the rally. So when they're starting the rally with the second serve, you will see now, typically all the good players are able to start with a deep body serve. Deep body serve, and then stay in the point with the next two shots to create a balanced rally. I would say this is just the follow-up to what we saw by the 12 and under successful players. They're just carrying over this competency with a higher quality of the shots. And now look at on the other side, the same point, starting the rally. But now actually, when they're returning, they are very offensive, and typically offensive actually in the center of the court. When I was developing these videos and these concepts, actually, I talked with several of my colleagues at the tour, and when I was asking them one of the key characteristics of the especially successful girls at that age is they are aware that when it's a tough result or tough score, to go with a safe and deep offensive return toward the center of the court, not for the lines. So this is what I would like to emphasize, and then also ask yourself, how often are you practicing and deliberately practicing the pattern by which actually the players are offensive by opening second serve toward the big target in the middle? Very often when I look at the practices of the coaches in terms of return practices, it's a cross-court return. And very often the kids are misusing down the line returns. That's another thing. Creating advantage with the first serve is also very important. You see here, wide serve, changing side to make opponent run and actually extend the pressure and finish the point. But here what is also very important by the, let's see this point one more time. Finish. Now, what is important now, actually, that apart from this standard pattern, now the players also have start to have additional variation. One variation is very important. So take a look one more time here. It's a wide serve. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I will go one more time. I have to make the right stop here when I'm moving up. So here. What I want to emphasize here with this frame is actually now after wide serve, the server recognized the opponent's movement that was backwards and toward the middle, And instead of hitting now deep down the line shot that would be possible to be reached by the returner, she's actually deciding to go with the angled cross-court shot behind. Angled cross-court shot behind. Another element that, especially by the girls, I don't see enough still, even at the international level, understanding of using angle shots with actually accuracy to create pressure instead of just hitting deep and hard balls. So one thing when I'm touching back to our discussion at the end of the first part, how to be more dangerous is actually to be dangerous with precision, not always with power. And perhaps when we will talk about Swedish mentality, I would say that precision could be the way to be more dangerous. Actually, for most of the players, can be a good solution to add. Baseline game. Following what we saw actually in the 12 and under, we'll see that also these players are carrying over this playing competency and actually adding the quality in the shots. They are now even more aware about the high percentage solutions, using the center of the court at the right time, cross courts, different heights of the balls in order to control the tempo and pace. But now it's not enough. Now actually what is the main difference in the baseline game that the girls are starting to try to dominate. And they will start to dominate typically for the female game with the depth around the center of the court. They start to actually try to push each other away from the baseline before opening the court and then follow up. So instead of waiting just for the opponent mistake, like in previous point, now you will see the girl closer on our side, they go deep, penetrating ball to the middle, and then take a chance by the neutral shot to go away from the opponent. So dominating the middle by the depth, actually, and then take the chance actually to open the court. Another important element of the female game is actually offensive positioning. And now you will see even more than by 12 and unders, their intention to be closer and actually be in charge of the point by staying closer to the line. And that you will see during this point that one and the other player are using their chances to step in and take over to be in charge of the point by actually having offensive position closer to the baseline. Ready? Now she'll go to attack, and now she gets closer and take over and create the pressure. One more time. Offensive position, bam. So here actually is very important what we saw, and I would say this is an important thing to develop, especially with the girls. Another element that we will see already by 12 and under, but I would say really by the top level, but here should be a standard already, I would say, for the top 100 Tennis Europe players, is that they are able to come and actually defensive ball to take with the drive volleys. In this match, I didn't find really one exactly such example, but you will see here, yes, she's taking opportunity by high ball and come to the net with the drive volley. So combining the offensive game from the baseline and actually then taking the high balls toward the middle with the drive volleys, I think it's very important tactical concepts to be used by the girls. Otherwise, you have to restart the point. So very important, and that's something what we will see by all the successful players, that they are aware about these tactics and they can use it, apply it in the match situation. Again, yes, variable defensive skills. So the girls here, you will see they are able to defend with the higher balls. They're able to neutralize with the tempo toward the middle. They will also use some slice as an option also. High ball. Neutralizing deep in the middle. Slice. So variable defense is important because then you are less predictable, obviously. and at the end, win the point from defense. Now, one more thing here I would like to emphasize when we are talking about the defense, and I would emphasize it also as additional value and quality compared with the 12 and under players. Take a look at the next point. Sorry, one more time, the same point. Look at now. So I stop it here because if you look backwards now, let's go here. She was playing high ball, yeah? High down the line shot. But now look at the player on the other side. Look only at the player on the other side. At the contact point, at the opponent's contact point, she was running through from forehand to backhand without making a split step. What it means, actually, it's not perhaps something what we are teaching them to make a split step, obviously, by the opponent's contact point, but here, actually, by understanding the opponent's option, and when she was playing high down the line ball to the opponent's backhand, she was actually expecting that the opponent will play to the middle of the cross court, because playing that ball down the line, good luck. Yeah, Mari was quite good in doing that at his stop, but here, what I am using this as an example for is that they're defending not only by running, but actually they're there because they also read the game and they understand the opponent's options. So that's a very important quality to be added to, let's say, 10, 12 and under game, where the kids are not able to do the same things because what we said before is related to abstract thinking, understanding the abstract concepts. Net game. When we talk about net game and the girls, they're very simple. Actually, they will be able to use the block volleys in the open space. That's something what they will be able to do it also even when they're under pressure by the lower volleys, and they will be able to finish the points. Look at this now. Shot. Now the other guy and the girl is coming to the net. Look at the volley. Low volley. No panic. She understands the options and actually played like a block volley angle cross court. The opponent is far from the net. So this understanding of the space and actually the appropriate shot, I would say that's the standard by the actually top girls at that age. When they are playing against the players at the baseline, at the net, I would say it's very similar like 12 and under competencies. They just see the opponent well and they will use the appropriate passing shot or lob. It's coming. She saw her very close and then using the right shot over the player. So quick summary for the girls. The game is based on high percentage game or high percentage tennis. Serving deep and to the body is like an option for the second serve, but very often also for the first serve. Returning with depth toward the middle, especially being offensive and using this direction to be offensive at the tough scores after opponent's second serve. Dominate the middle with a depth, being resilient under pressure with reliable defense, able to finish the points with the block volleys to the open space. So being aware of the space and the appropriate shot. We covered the girls. Let's move on to the boys and just to highlight some key commonalities and some specificities. So in terms of autonomy and managing emotions, they are actually showing the same elements. What I will use here as one example, after missing the point, look at now the player with the cap at the end of his ritual. You see shadowing the stroke, positive reinforcement, part of the managing emotions tools. I will not go more in details, so they are sharing the same, I would say, commonalities here, same competence and standards. But what I would like to say here for the boys, that in principle, they need a bit less emotional support than the girls. They're they need the support and emotional support from the coach or peers, but they are looking less for the support compared to the girls. Of course, here it's very important how we educate the players, how much we are involved, how we as a coaches actually behave during their matches. And another point for another discussion is how often the coaches are with their players at the matches, at the official matches, and how often are the parents that are so much emotional in that situation that it's more problem for them to control themselves than actually to help the players. Let's move on to serving. Yes, serving is one of the, I would say, key differences between the boys and girls, successful boys and girls at that age. Because here we will see that successful boys are able to create advantage with variety of serve and second shot, like T-serve and the cross court. And typically using backhands more often than as a direction than the girls. Time, bump. And putting pressure with second shot. Body serve, and then using some variations in addition. He was coming to the net. And actually, you will see the third one. It's also wide serve. And now, not going to just for the other side as a standard pattern, but also using the down the line approach and actually showing variety. So having more options by the first serve and the following shots is actually the standard actually of the playing competency in order to create advantage with first serve and the following one or two shots. By the returning, the same like by the girls, they are very offensive with a safe return deep to the middle after slower first serves or by their actually second serves. So again, how often you are practicing offensive returns toward the middle? Important part for me when we talk about really successful players and actually avoiding unnecessary mistakes. Yeah. Apart from being offensive toward the center of the court, of course, the players are using these high percentage X patterns with a cross court and then look for the other side. I'm using this one also. You will see why, because he will get the ball, the serve to the backhand, to the tee. Second serve goes to the backhand side. And now backhand to backhand actually is a cross court in half court. It's not down the line shot. Down the line would be after wide serve to hit the forehand down the line. That's the angle, yeah. Cross court with forehand, and then the other side would be the next shot if it not be mistake before. In the baseline game, same like the girls, the boys will also show this just advanced ability to use appropriate shots, different trajectories. What they will use actually better, actually, it's also the slide shot to change the rhythm. Compared to the girls, of course, they have a stronger shoulder area and it'd be easier to control the slide shots than for the girls. But you could see they're more offensive, but basically this making right decisions, using appropriate trajectories is the competency that is carried over from the 12 and under. Yes, also like the girls, the boys are actually trying to dominate in the middle. The difference here, what will be actually is that they're using more heaviness. There is more spin, typical difference between boys and girls. They will use more spin when they're trying to overpower each other around in the big target around the middle. And then with the cross-court shot, actually opening the court and provoking errors. So by dominating the middle, the main characteristic for the boys is heaviness with the depth and spin, and actually for the girls it's space and the depth. That's the difference. And also one more thing that we will see that actually the boys are doing more often is to really cover this center of the court with the forehand. They will be using it more than the girls, but as I said also when we talk about the girls, already 12 and under, it's something what in different countries, it's a part of the curriculum for the girls from a young age. And we can also see that also in a pro game that the females are using more and more forehands also around the center of the court. Dominating the cross-court rally. So here the players, the best players are starting to try to dominate with one or two shots to actually create advantage in a cross-court rally. It's not about playing 10 cross-courts, but with the first or second shot to either go for angle cross-court or to change from cross-court to down the line. So here it's already very important to be able to dominate the cross-court, create opportunity, and then change direction. What is here the difference between the boys and girls? That by the boys, they are more often open the cross court first to the backhand, on the backhand side. By the girls, they're more often attacking first the forehand side with the cross court to the forehand. It doesn't say it's happened always, but it's actually in percentage, the difference. And then if we develop the girls, we should not always actually make the same like with the boys, or fostering opening to the backhand side. Reason is because by very many, especially young girls, the forehand is actually less dangerous shot. Not bad, but less dangerous shot. Very often they have very strong backhand and especially backhand down the line shots. As by the boys, also the girls, the boys are also trying to get to the offensive position. Look at the guy on the other side. He's closer to the line, pressuring the guy closer to us, who is further away. So basically, he's depending on the opponent's mistake in order to win the point. Variable defense. Using slices, using high balls, so to buy the time, neutralizing with the tempo to the middle. So actually, different opportunities that players are having in order to not be always predictable with the way how they will defend. Very important skill and playing competency. At the net game, the same thing as by the girls, the boys are using open space. They're using open space. They're aware about the open space and go for it. Now, one thing in terms of technical skills that we will see as a standard by the most successful boys is actually, now look at here, when he comes to the net, actually it's not just a block volley, it's so-called forward swing volley. He actually pushed the racket through the ball in order to actually add some pace, because they're aware that if he just blocked the ball, the guys are bigger, faster on the court, and actually they are able to run if you are just blocking and the ball is actually slow. So having this forward swing volley, I would say it's a standard for the best boys, and the girls will actually catch up with this skill already under 18. If they don't have it under 18, they actually will not be successful at the net game. Against the net player, again, similarities that both as by the girls, they see the opponent, they will pick up the right option to play the passing shot or lob. The main difference between the boys and girls is actually that the boys are using much more often the tops and lobs, because the opponents are better in covering the, especially slice lobs, relatively easy for these bigger boys already to take with the smash. The girls are using more often the slice lobs because not many girls have very strong smash from the area, especially from a bit of a more deep position. So one thing that, in my opinion, also by the girls, we have to really work on serves, on smashes after the bounce, and actually to be comfortable with this shot. And that will give them much more confidence in the whole entire game. So, short summary about the boys. Same like by the girls, the game is based on high percentage tennis. But they serve with more variety, especially the first serve, and using backhand side of the opponent much more often than the girls. Returning, offensive to the middle and X pattern. Dominate the middle from the baseline with a depth and spin, using forehand shots whenever possible. They will be also able to open the court by the first chance. Compared with the girls, actually the boys are, I would call it like this, more brave to open the court. The girls are waiting a little bit more for the right chance to attack with angle cross court or away from the opponent. Also, this will be very quickly changed, and in order to be successful under 18, the girls also have to take the first chance and open the court. Otherwise, the other player will do it. They're resilient under pressure with variable defense, and they're using forward swing volley to free space to add some pace to the volley and not allow the opponent to run for it. So now at the end of this second part, I want to make something very, very clear. Because I don't want that what I was now presenting, these standards of playing competencies, are misunderstood. Namely, the playing competencies and the standards are not the templates how we should actually develop the player and that the player should look like that. No, not at all. So read this, what is here on the screen first. So by being aware about the playing standards of the successful players, we are actually aware about the challenges that are waiting for our player when playing at that level. And by being aware of the playing standards of successful players, the coaches are able to prepare the player to beat the standard. And that's actually the objective. By knowing the standards, is not to play by the standards, it's about actually being ready for this challenge and prepare the player to be better than the standard. Now we are moving on to the next, I would call it module. Basically, it's about tactics that we start with. And today we will do another two presentations related to this. So the first one, you see the title of this presentation, Introduction to Tactics for Advanced Players. And I would like to start with the word tactics. Does anybody know from which language or what it means actually tactics? It's come from Greek language, taktika. It's about actually armies, wars, and how to place and maneuver the troops on the battlefield. That's where actually the word is coming from. Actually, sport is very much linked in general with the army and the wars, unfortunately. That's another thing. So when we talk about tactics, I believe all of you know this person, Brett Gilbert, and actually he wrote a book that is pretty famous in terms of tactics. It's called Winning Ugly. And if you didn't read it yet, I really recommend to read it. I use it only actually as additional material and idea in the background, because of course when we talk about the tactics, first of all we have to define two terms. The first one is strategy. So I would like that you write for yourself down with a keyword, 2-3 keywords. What for you is strategy? Okay. And then, because strategy and tactics are two connected words, so I would like that you for yourself make a definition to be able to distinguish what is strategy, what is tactics for you. Just write down. I will not ask you. I will share with you the answer. I hope you have it. So, the strategy, tactics. So obviously you can look at different strategies. If your strategy is to play short points, then obvious tactics to win when you are serving is to play serve and volley by the first serve. So of course the strategy is then more general, and actually the tactics is more concrete. How you will win, which are the real patterns of play, and not the game plan. So game plan is a strategy. Tactics actually is typically the patterns that you are defining that you would like to apply against a specific opponent or in specific situations in the match. Now, one more thing for you. Which are the elements that determines the player's tactics? Write down for yourself. Okay, I share something with you on the screen, and I believe you have been doing in the same direction that I share with you. Of course, there are some factors that are related to player himself, to the opponent, and to the environment. I will ask you that each of you makes 3 factors that are related to the player, opponent, and environment. Write down for yourself. So, 3 factors related to me as a player. Obviously, the first one will be my technical skills. If I don't have some shots, I cannot apply some tactics. Second would be my favorite patterns, would be my strong shots, but also to consider my weaknesses. Actually, the same things are applying for my opponent on the other side, because obviously my tactics will be always to use my strengths against the opponent's weaknesses. That's my best game. And related to the environment, when you think about environment, I hope that you put up, because I put here in a slide actually that they are playing at the top of the skyscraper in Abu Dhabi, I think, a match, and it's related to, of course, the altitude as a part of environment. We all know that try to play at the sea level is different than on 3,000 meters. The ball is flying and bouncing totally different. Playing in the wind, playing in a hot weather or in a humid weather when it's rainy. Obviously, these environmental factors will very much influence the tactics and the way we will play the game. So 3 key elements related to player himself, opponent, and environment. So when we talk about player himself, typically we are also relating these small elements in a way that it defines the player's game style. Now, I will share with you 4 game styles. These are traditional game styles, like aggressive baseliner, all-round player, counter-puncher, and net rusher game style. So you see actually basically the players here that are not playing. I think some a bit Monfils is still around, so still playing a little bit. The other 3 guys are not playing at all. So I would like you to actually find in the new generation of the players actually the examples of these game styles. Okay, I give you 2 minutes. So which would be the examples of the modern players that are still playing on the tour, that would represent different game styles? When we talk about players' game style, they will actually be related to the few elements. Of course, the strategy that is defined with the game style, tactics, understanding of different tactical concepts and having different skills, But also, one thing that we will also discuss much more in person when we meet in Stockholm is about tactical decisions. Actually, decisions that are mainly based on the clues that we see, especially during the point. The strategy, tactics, and tactical decisions will be related to your game style, because different game style will make different decisions in the same situations. But with all game styles, actually, there is the same main objective. And the main objective in the game is to create a pressure. Yes, I use here Sabalenka as an example. And the way she creates pressure, of course, is the pace, the speed of the ball. But you can create a pressure by using space, you can create pressure by changing rhythm, or just by consistency. So pressure is not just speed of the ball. Actually, there are two key elements that the players are combining in order to create the pressure. Is space, how they use the space, and another one is how they use the time. So combining these two factors, how to use space and time, actually we can create the pressure in different ways according to our game style. So when creating pressure, the players can use active game, high tempo. They can use high percentage tennis. But then, in order not to be predictable with high percentage tennis, they have to also apply, we would call it reasonable risk. And by all of this, actually, they will be using their weapons, patterns, and variations. And now I need 4 groups, Mihaela. Guys, can you make a screenshot? Okay, perfect. So guys, please write down 1, active high tempo, 2, high percentage tennis, 3, reasonable risk, 4, weapons, patterns, variations. Write for yourself down on the paper that you have it in front of you, and put the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4.